I need a motion to reconvene into public session. Motion by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. I need a motion for approval of an affidavit and resolution pertaining to executive session. Motion by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Auletta. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The next and only item on the agenda today is a discussion regarding the potential acquisition of Terrifield Airport, and County Manager Butch Sanders has a presentation regarding this item. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. I appreciate this opportunity today. You have in front of you the opportunity to enter into a purchase agreement with Clayton County for the acquisition of Terrifield. It is a very important decision that will have a lot of ramifications for Henry County's future and certainly the Hampton area. And I wanted to present a fact sheet, as I know a lot of information and rumors have been flying around the community. I wanted to put a fact sheet together both for you and the citizenry to discuss the basics of this deal. The parcels involved, and there will be an overhead slide in a second kind of orienting everybody, but the parcels involved in this deal are the basic airport property itself, which is 325.29 acres. This is acreage that is a FAA-supported public airport with Clayton County ownership and sponsored by Clayton County. The second piece, second amount of acreage, 217 acres, is an adjacent piece of property currently owned by Clayton County through the Clayton County Water Authority, which is important because it is in the master plan or the layout plan for the airport. That is where the development is going on the other side of the runway, and we'll see that in just a second. Also included in this potential transaction is a terminal with a hangar attached, a freestanding aviation hangar, and a fueling facility with two above-ground 12,000-gallon fuel tanks. This is the airport itself, and just to orient everybody, runway right here, the development area, terminal sits right in here. Other private hangars that have access to the airport and currently pay an access fee to Clayton County. You can see the proximity to our largest property tax holder in Atlanta Motor Speedway. You can see where a four-lane divided highway, State Highway 20 comes in, another four-lane divided highway, 1941, and the adjacent tract that I talked about, which is planned for future development, sits on the opposite side of the runway, basically in that pie shape, which is about 217 acres. And it becomes important, as I said, for future development of the airport. The financial details. Very simply, the total purchase price is $17.7 million. Of that $17.7 million, and that includes all the parcels and the buildings that on the first slide, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, is putting up 84.8%, or $15 million. The Henry County share, or 15.2%, would be $2.7 million for the acquisition of the entire airport with the adjacent property. One thing is it's important to note. Since the FAA, and they would like this noted, since the FAA has already paid for that airport one time, they won't pay for it again. So of our $2.7 million, $1.3 million is for the airport itself. The FAA is not reimbursing us for that share of the 2.7. We are paying 1.3 for the airport. So if you back that out of the 2.7, you're actually buying all this for 9 cents on the dollar. It's more like 91% FAA share, because that is a necessity. They will not pay for the airport twice. And once again, what do we get? What should the agreement be approved? 543 acres of land, the terminal building with the attached hangar, a freestanding hangar, and a fuel farm. And currently, just to kind of flesh out some of the specifics, currently the FBO, or the operation, is run by Clayton County. That does not have to be the case with Henry County ownership. We have had discussions with the private sector regarding private airport FBO management, and that is a very real option in our case. And it is an option which could, given our negotiations, take our cost, our actual cost of acquisition and operation down to zero. Looking at the proposed payment schedule as it is written in the bond purchase purchase agreement, we have 3 payments, and they are due over 3 fiscal years, 3 fiscal budget years for Henry County. We have to come up with the cost of the airport, as I said, at closing. That is scheduled to be August 3rd. The next payment that Henry County will be responsible for will be $1 million payment, and that will be on or before September 30th, 2012. That is in the next fiscal year, and the remainder is actually in fiscal year 2014. So these payments, our responsibilities, are spread over 3 budget years, which, given our financial situation and our budget situation, makes a big difference. And that initial 1.3 will come out of our capital asset fund. We do not enter into this agreement by any means alone or without extra dollars being there. We have a firm commitment from FAA. In addition to the $15 million acquisition amount, there is $10 to $12 million in a project account for runway extension and an instrument approach, which develops that airport and makes it much more viable from a lot of perspectives, a lot of standpoints. There is also an additional $48,000 to $50,000 in leftover grant funds from uncompleted work that Clayton had started. And in addition to that, GDOT has a pot of money with $1 million in it for airport projects and operational capital, not daily operation and maintenance. We cannot use those dollars for that. We also have remaining $51,000 for hangar purchases or construction, with an annual contribution coming into that of $150,000. Why do you buy an airport? Why is Terra important? I think in listing the reasons, I came up with 5. The first one is safety, air and ground safety. We had an accident out there in this year. With the acquisition of the airport and the inclusion of the runway extension in the ILS, that runway, the airport operation becomes much, much safer, both to people in the air and on the ground. Second reason is the potential for economic development in the area. And the next couple slides speak to that. The first one is a potential extension of Georgia 20, where Georgia 20 currently comes into 1941. There is the potential of a first phase development over to Highway 92 in Fayette County. And Madam Chair, you may have a little more information regarding this.
Certainly. There's been conversations going on about moving this project forward, as Highway 92 has been identified by GDOT as a strategic freight corridor in their long-term plans. And so this particular extension would certainly be in line and would enhance our connectivity as a freight corridor to Highway 92, potentially alleviating tractor-trailer traffic that's currently on I-75, which is one of the reasons why they are looking at Highway 92 currently.
The second slide, if you look at undeveloped industrial commercial area, they're about 2,600 acres. In addition, within a 3-mile radius of the airport. In addition, there is an additional 1,700 acres what is an adopted, identified activity center, which gives us a lot of options for development on that huge amount of acreage to the south of Terra and to the south of Atlanta Motor Speedway. And not only are we talking about future economic development, but an airport and an improved airport does a lot for existing industry. I think that we have a strong history of supporting our existing industry, people who have already made an investment in Henry County, and this only adds to that. I think it's also important to note that when it comes to governmental efficiency, acquiring this airport and putting it in Henry County hands rather than Clayton County hands, in Clayton County, Clayton County did not have an incentive to improve and develop this airport. Any development around it would not be on Clayton County's digest, it would be on Henry County's. Makes for much more efficiency as far as government operations, and it makes much more sense that Henry County be the owner of the airport. We also have had an unbelievable amount of support from a wide variety of people. This is just one example. This is a letter that was received back in March from Congressman Westmoreland's office. But we have over time, we've put a group of supporters together on this project, which you just don't see on normal governmental initiatives. Just a small list of those partners. Besides Congressman Westmoreland, other federal officials and congressmen, we have the FAA, of course, which is stepping to the plate with almost $30 million in support of our efforts. Doug Murphy, who is the regional director, Scott Serrett, who's the Atlanta district director, and their staff. They've done a great job. GDOT, Carol Comer, who is in charge of the aviation division, has marshaled her forces behind this initiative. The state legislature, Senator Jeffries, the governor, lieutenant governor, our whole delegation has helped us at various times. There are City of Hampton officials here who have been very positive about this move to acquire and develop Terra Field. The business community, the chamber has been very supportive, and all of the airport property owners and the aviation folks surrounding the airport have been unbelievably supportive and helpful. And there are a couple gentlemen here with the ProMaker group that have just done a great job serving as liaison between the various groups. So it's a project that has developed a level of support that you don't see very often. And I think that's very important to note, given that the timing of this potential acquisition is not good when it comes to looking at our budget, and you consider what we've had to do to balance the budget this year. I think we need to recognize that we did have position eliminations to balance this budget. That does not make the timing good. But as I said, the weight of the issue, the group that has come together in support, just makes the opportunity so great that it is something that I think calls for action, even though the timing is not good on this. I will defer to Ms. Wiley if she has if you have any questions for her specifically for about the purchase agreement, but that just gives you an overview of where we stand, what's before you, and we'd be glad to answer any questions for you.
We'll open the board up for comments or questions at this time.
Butch, I understand economic development, and everybody knows I'm on board with bringing jobs to Henry County. I do see this as an engine that could possibly help us do that. But my number one concern is the FAA. How sure are we that we're going to receive the payment from the FAA? And number two, if we receive payment 2 and we don't receive payment 3 and 4, what happens to payment 2?
I can tell you that as far as the FAA commitment, Mr. Murphy who is the regional director, has said that he has spent more time on this little airport in the last couple of years than Hartsfield-Jackson. They are short of a signed contract. I am 100% certain that FAA will come up with the funding as they have promised for this acquisition. And the improvements, because the improvements go hand in hand with this acquisition.
Can you discuss the timeline for the runway extension and also the timeline for profitability?
I've had a chance to discuss that both with the FAA and with Clayton County's current airport engineer, who has worked on environmental assessments and other preliminary plans for the airport. My estimate for getting to putting specifications together for the runway, and that would include an awful lot of discussion with the public. We need to be nothing if we aren't transparent about where we go with this airport, and include all of the stakeholders in the airport. But I would say that we can get to pushing it, and with FAA support, which I know is there, I think probably 6 to 7 months, and we can have our decision and specs put together for that extension.
You also discussed jobs and the recent layoffs. If we're able to move forward with the extension and make the airport more profitable, can we make priority the hiring of those employees that we had to let go?
Commissioner, we have already done that whenever, if there is a vacancy in county government. We have talked to other governmental agencies about, and those folks who had their positions eliminated, they are at the top of the priority list for anything that comes open. I've had meetings with several of those employees, and we are going to be as supportive as we possibly can be.
Thank you, Coach.
Anyone else? Mr. Holder?
Just a comment, and back to what Mr. Sanders has said about the budget and the timing. This is the first time in my history that I have not supported the budget for Henry County. But this opportunity wouldn't be here had we not been in difficult times. We wouldn't have had the opportunity to make this purchase. It's a tough decision. It's tough times. But sometimes you have to turn bad times into an opportunity, into positives. And none of us were sitting here in 1992, I believe it was, when the airport was offered to Henry County, and Henry County refused it, and it ended up being offered to Clayton County, and they accepted it. In retrospect, that was probably a bad mistake, and I just think it's good that we have the opportunity now to get everything back into Henry County, and as you said in your presentation, certainly it's more beneficial for Henry County to promote not just the airport, but the land around the airport, than it would be for Clayton County, because we do benefit from the taxes that will come in from the businesses that will locate there. So I think it is definitely an opportunity. It's tough times, but had the times not been tough, we wouldn't have had the opportunity.
Madam Chair, I've got a comment too.
Okay, Mr. Steen.
Butch, I think the time, you made a statement about the time, and I have to agree with you, it's probably the toughest time, but for me, the only way this acquisition works is with the partnership with FAA. Without that, we don't have the funds to create an economic engine in that area. So that's kind of the big push for me, is we have a partner with the FAA. And I think that I don't want anybody to think that we're writing a check for $17 million out of general fund. It's not happening. And I think that's why you were trying to get Mr. Holmes comfortable about where the money's coming from. And I think the way the contract is written, after the September payment, if that funds do not come from FAA, we're out of the deal, correct? Okay.
After the September 30th payment of $10 million from Henry to Clayton, based upon the money we received from the FAA funding, if subsequent monies do not come in, then Henry County has no obligation with respect to payment of the remaining funds due under the contract. The only remedy that will be available to Clayton County will be to recoup the Water Authority land back. But the county would still have the airport parcels consisting of 326 plus or minus acres and all the fuel station, the building hangar, and what, the aviation hangar? It was something else.
There's a freestanding aviation hangar.
Thank you.
Mr. Arletta?
I was just going to clarify, since your presentation went from $17.7 million to Henry County paying the 1.2 and then 1 and whatever, some people may be saying what happened to the remaining amount, and I think it was just clarified that the first payment that's due is the $10 million, as our attorney has said, and that $10 million is coming from the FAA, which is part of that almost $15 million we're getting from FAA. So Henry County, the payments are being made during that interim period between the $1,296,000 to purchase the airport at closing, and then in September for the $10 million coming from FAA to purchase that Water Authority property. And likewise, the next payment of $4 million that's due again comes from FAA. So again, we're not out. So there's where the 15 comes. It's in between the $1,296,000 and the $1 million that's due years later. And again, those payments, as has been said, are coming from FAA. They're not coming from our pocket. And again, if the $10 million does not, just to reiterate, if it does not come in September, then the deal is over, and we get our $1,296,000 back, and they get the airport back, and we move on. And to the extent that the payment is not made, the $4 million not made after the $10 million, again, there's no obligation on Henry Kearney's part to write a check for $4 million of the remaining part of the deal. That's then between Clayton County and the FAA. Correct. With the land that was purchased with the $10 million by the FAA's money. So again, our exposure at that point is that we then at that point have bought 326 acres and an active airport and a runway, or a hangar that would be deeded over to us at the time that the FAA makes the $10 million payment. So at that point, as I said, we have an airport with the 300 and some acres, a hangar, and so on, and no future obligations to buy anything else. So I just want to clarify that part of it there. The other thing I want to clarify is that I read, as others have and yourselves, and that is there's been some rumors, if you would, or insinuations or facts or whatever they have been presented, that part of this deal is going to obligate us, or we've obligated ourselves for $38 million, which the commissioners a while back agreed to, and part of a resolution today, if we do proceed, would be to make sure that that $38 million that was put out there a while back, which was related to movie studios and whatever, that agreement or a resolution that was out there will be rescinded at the same time, so that whatever questions are arising out of rumors or whatever else, we'll put that to bed, that is not what this deal is all about. It's not about a movie studio at all, and $38 million are obligating the citizens to future taxes to pay for a $38 million bond related to movie studios. It's not at all part of this. The other is that rumors were that there were 20 employees out there. There are 4, and the discussion's already been had as to how or why, or what, rather, those 4 employees and how they'll be treated. But it's not 20, it's 4, and that's that. And one other thing I had, I apologize. The last one I think I had was the, as has been said earlier, and that is the timing. I think you had mentioned is not good, and it's definitely not good in the eyes of layoffs and the budget and so on and so forth. I think I presented when we did the budget the fact that Cobb, I think it was Cobb I had mentioned, had a very low rate. It was obviously a competing county, and right now, on the 19th of this month, they are going to be voting to increase their millage to 11.21 if it passes, and ours is 11.75. So with us working with our budget the way we have and not raising the millage, we are getting, when others having to, DeKalb and many others talking about it and doing it, we're going to be very close in our millage to the other counties as well through the fiscal responsibility that we took to pass that budget. And the other is that one of the things that we definitely are going to pursue is an aviation management contract of some sort to pursue the management of this airport. We're not airport experts. We realize that and have had many discussions about that, and that is something that will be pursued as well. I just wanted to bring that out.
Mr. Bowman, did you have any comments?
I guess one of the things that I've been, everything that's been brought up is true. I mean, under the current economic conditions, it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the current economic conditions, which none of us, really care for. But I guess one of the things that I haven't heard brought up among my fellow commissioners is that I've heard recently is that we're taking all this property off the tax roll when it's not on the tax roll. Clayton County doesn't pay taxes on property taxes, so that's really the only thing else. Everything else has been covered, and I believe we have to look forward and look to the future, and I believe this is an opportunity for Henry County to move forward.
And one comment. Go ahead.
One of the other things I recall hearing, reading, or whatever, besides the $38 million and others, I think I heard that we're paying $10 million. I think that's been squelched with the 2.7, and what we're getting over 540 acres and a hangar and an airport. But also, the other was that Henry County was also going to be committed to pay, I've heard figures of $25 million to extend this runway. You had mentioned the $10 to $12 million that's available. Henry County's part of that, as I understand it, is with the FAA financing or developing it. Ours would be 2.5%, if I'm not mistaken, of whatever the cost of that extension is. So on $10 million to extend it, the 1,500 feet would be approximately, for us, on $10 million would be $250,000, $250,000.
Correct. In any approved federal project, FAA picks up 95, GDOT signs on for 2.5%, and the local sponsor is 2.5%.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify so nobody thought we were making another $10 million or additional investment over and above the monies you mentioned on the money available for extension.
And one comment I want to add. Over 50% of the revenues that come into Henry County come from residential property taxes. And that has really put us at a tremendous disadvantage in this economy when the housing market has taken such a hard hit. Over the last 2 years, we have reduced our budget over $20 million in this county. I have to say this board has done an exceptional job of holding the line on spending and looking at ways that we could continue to provide services to our citizens, still $20 million less than 2 years ago, and I think we've done a very good job of that. An economist had released a study, and I don't have that in front of me, that basically had stated that Henry County, because of our dependency on residential housing, would be a very, very, very long time in recovering from this economy. We have decided as a board that we have got to do everything that we can to bring business and industry into this community. Where a business requires very few services, residential homes require a lot, and it comes with a big price tag. And in order for our economy to continue to be strong and in order to be the community that we need to be moving forward in the future, we're going to have to make some decisions that are going to attract business and industry to this community, and we're going to have to think outside the box. 18 months ago, 100 leaders in this community came together and drafted an economic development strategy for our community, and one of those initiatives was the purchase of Terra Field, and that's been on our radar for a number of years. and we recognize that it is a very strategic part of our plan to bring ourselves out of this economy, bring those businesses here, stabilize our tax base, provide job opportunities for our citizens, and realize the full potential that we have here as we are positioned in the state of Georgia. Henry County has a lot of great things going for it, and this is one critical piece to the puzzle in putting us on the map as far as economic development is concerned. And so I want to commend all the board members that have worked tirelessly for several years to try to bring this about. And it's been a combined effort. A lot of folks have really worked to try to make this happen because we feel like this is something good, positive, and beneficial to this community. And we may not recognize it for several years, but I don't want our community to look back in 20 years and say they blew another opportunity, the same way we look back to the early 90s when the Board of Commissioners had that opportunity. And I've had some of those commissioners come to me and say what a mistake we made by allowing that airport to be purchased by another county. And I don't want that to be said of this board. If there are no further comments to come before this board at this time or questions, I have a resolution that I would like to read in its entirety. I feel like it's important that all the information be shared with our citizens. This is a resolution of the Henry County Board of Commissioners authorizing the approval of a purchase-sales agreement with Clayton County, Georgia to acquire Terrifield Airport. Whereas Terrifield Airport is currently owned by Clayton County, Georgia, and whereas Terrifield Airport is located wholly within the geographical bounds of Henry County, Georgia, and whereas on April the 6th, 2009, the Henry County Board of Commissioners passed resolution number 09-80 agreeing to enter into negotiations for the purchase and acquisition of Terrifield Airport. And whereas since that time, Henry County is engaged in various dialogue, discussions, and meetings with officials from Clayton County, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Aviation Division of the Georgia Department of Transportation. And whereas the Terrifield Airport property consists of 8 tracts of land with a total of 326 plus-minus acres devoted exclusively to airport-related uses, and whereas there exists a building hangar owned by Clayton County located on one of the 8 tracts of land which comprise Terrifield Airport. And whereas Terrifield Airport is not realizing its full potential nor operating at maximum use as an airport facility, and whereas full utilization of Terrifield Airport will enable this airport to be a tremendous economic benefit to Henry County and the region south of Atlanta generally. And whereas the development of a portion of publicly owned property currently owned by the Clayton County Water Authority, 217 plus or minus acres adjacent to Terrifield for airport-related purposes will further enhance the economic viability of Terrifield Airport. And whereas the county manager has advised that based on discussions and meetings with FAA and GDOT officials, Henry County is eligible to receive grant funding in the amount of 95% of the purchase price for the acquisition of the Water Authority land and the building hangar. And whereas Clayton County has agreed to sell Terrifield Airport, the building hangar located thereon, and the Water Authority land to Henry County for a total purchase price of $17,700,000. And whereas said sale amount is consistent with the appraised value of the Terrifield Airport parcels, the building hangar, and the Water Authority land collectively hereinafter the airport property. And whereas with 95% of grant funding, Henry County is expected to receive a total of $14,957,750 from the FAA to be applied toward the acquisition of the Water Authority land and building hangar. And whereas the receipt of such FAA grant funding will substantially reduce the amount of local funds needed to acquire this property. And whereas with FAA grant funding, Henry County will be able to acquire more than 540 acres of land and a building hangar using local funds in the amount of $2,742,250. And whereas the county manager has further advised that there may be additional grant funding available to Henry County from GDOT. And whereas once acquired, it will be vital to the economic growth of Terrifield Airport if the airport is operated by an experienced and professional aviation consultant and management firm. Now therefore be it resolved that the Henry County Board of Commissioners has determined that it is in the best interest of Henry County to enter into the attached intergovernmental agreement for the purchase and acquisition of the airport property as provided in accordance with the terms thereof, and authorizes the chairman to execute all documents pertaining thereto. Be it further resolved that the Henry County Board of Commissioners deems it is in the best interest of Henry County to seek out a management agreement with a reputable aviation management company based upon terms agreeable to Henry County. Be it further resolved that resolution number 10-130 concerning movie studio facilities located at or near Terrifield Airport involving Big Five Enterprises LLC be and is hereby rescinded and revoked. It is so resolved this day of July 2011. And with that resolution being read, I will entertain a motion. Is that a motion to approve, Mr. Arletta? Have a motion to approve, second by Mr. Holder. Is there any further discussion on this item? All in favor of Mr. Arletta?
Just sometimes this gets run off, but that is, and most people know this, but it says 326 plus or minus and 217 plus or minus acres. That is not at all to infer that we're looking to buy 100 more acres or 5 acres. That's just merely plus or minus because you can't be exact in the .1 or .5 acres, if you would, so it's not meant to be anything other than that. And secondly, I do want to, we didn't speak of it, and that is this resolution does speak of it, and that these prices are consistent with appraised values, which would not happen, this deal would not happen unless FAA had appraisals to agree with the valuation that is being paid, since most of it's their money. So I just wanted to add that since we hadn't discussed that as well. So thank you.
All right. All in favor of approving the resolution? All right. Motion carries 6-0. The upcoming meetings and events, Monday, July 18, 2011, we have a the regular meeting has been canceled. Tuesday, July 19th at 6:30 p.m., we have a regular meeting. Mr. Bowman, did you have some comments that you would like to make before we adjourn the meeting? No? I thought you had some comments you wanted to make. Okay, all right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. We stand adjourned.